Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Female Voice Zoomcast. I am Shanice.
I'm Lauren.
I'm NECA.
And I'm Takara.
Today, we are going to discuss the topic of cultural appropriation. We all know that Black culture has shaped the American fabric, from the entertainment industry to the fashion industry. And today we are going to discuss the not so recent trend of cultural vultures, people who take from Black culture and make it their own. Some might argue this is showing appreciation for Black culture, while others may not agree. So, ladies, this brings us to our first question. Is it cultural appreciation or cultural appropriation when someone takes from the Black culture and makes it their own? All right, who would like to start us off?
I don't know. I just this is Takara talking, and I think it's just it's hard to answer. I think it depends on who it is. I mean, it's sometimes you get the vibe that people, it's like they do a lot of things that are Black, take things from our culture, but then they don't want to be Black. Like, so it's kind of like, they get a lot of praise, which, I don't even want to give them any more recognition or, any more time. But, a lot of people talk about like the whole idea with the cornrows and stuff where, white women do it, the Kim Kardashians do it. And I mean, not Kim Kardashians, but the Kardashians do it. And then it becomes, now it's like it's popular and everybody wants to talk about it, but Black women have been doing that for years. And a lot of people would say that they take everything from us, which I agree, to be honest. It's very much, they have absorbed everything from us and have, profited and become popular off of that. But it's that much harder for Black women to get that notoriety, to be able to get that level of success and to make that amount of money that they make. It's, a tough pill to swallow, and it can make you upset about, how come, this can be so popular for people who are of a different race.
Yeah, I think for me, it really has to do with the economic impact that it kind of has. Like if you create something that is cool, that all of America is into, that has a monetary value to it. And so if you flip it, reverse it, and then don't acknowledge that it came from Black culture, or then even, allow Black people to profit off its sale, then that takes money out of our community as well. And for me, I think that's really the big thing, is that we don't get the opportunity to profit from the economic base or ideas or inventions that we create. And so that has implications in our community as well. And so that for me is kind of like, that's the real problem with it for me.
Yeah, I agree that the economic portion is a big part of the issue. Like, who comes to mind who is culturally appropriating or has in the past is Miley Cyrus. During that time where she was trying to transition her career from being like, known as like a little, teeny bopper type of artist, she took on a lot of things from Black culture. She was twerking. She had a lot of hip hop, R&B, Black influences in her music. We saw her wearing locks. We saw her wearing grills, things that are part of Black culture. And when she was selling the records and doing well, and she got her money and her fame and her image changed, she dropped all of those things and went back to being a white girl, right? So I think it's basically just stealing for your economic benefit or whatever you're trying to do, not acknowledging, and then you can just drop it as need be. You don't get any of the backlash and negativity of being Black, but you want the coolness of Black, you want the benefits of it, but you don't get any of the side effects that we experience, which is problematic. I don't think that it's always just economic being an issue, but like not necessarily with the Black culture, but if you think about people at Halloween who think it's okay to dress up like a Native American. Like
Mm.
that too, like it's stupidity. It's cultural appropriation. You're not putting on people's culture as a costume. So I don't think there's any economic benefit in that instance, but it's still extremely problematic.
100% right, ladies, and I definitely agree on this. And then for some that argues that it's appreciation, like I read an article and they're like, well, we're just kind of show that we love and we appreciate the Black culture. So that's why we're we're trying to copy the hairstyles, and so it's just a love, so we should be able to do it. So I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think that a lot of times when they are copied, they're given another name. So for instance, if they do cornrows, it's no longer cornrows, it's boxer braids or Kim Kardashian braids, and we all know where Kim Kardashian got the ideas from. And so that's my main issue. If you appreciate it, fine, then acknowledge where it came from. Don't just use it to your benefit because you think it's cool. So that's my input on that one.
A
So
good juxtaposition for that is, well, not to your comment, Shanice, but it's a good juxtaposition for like versus appropriation to appreciation. Recently, Bruno Mars has gotten a lot of like, backlash where people are saying like that he is culturally appropriating like Black music. But he has always been very open about, his influences were major Black artists, James Brown, Michael Jackson. Who else did he say? I mean, but so he's always given credit where credit is due. He's always been very like, honest about that, and very like that's who he, that he grew up listening to that music. He always wanted to dance like those people and sing like those people and be like, he wanted to, emulate that. And I mean, he is great, he does great music. And I don't think that he ever tried to like take it and make it as his own. So I think that's the difference between,
Yeah, but is that okay though? Like because of the way that he looks, he's going to be able to go into spaces that other people that look differently can't. So is it enough to say I'm influenced by James Brown, do all of James Brown moves and his style and everything that is James Brown, and then take it to the next level, and that's enough, is it?
I mean, I think so. Now, this is for Bruno Mars, because I think that this is somebody who really does appreciate, that music and the things that came from our culture. And unfortunately, we have a bigger societal problem, that has made it where it's acceptable for him to go into those other places, and he's more accessible because I mean, technically, he's in that brown category. He's not of European descent. So his ability to make have that success, I think, is a good thing for him. But the trouble is our society makes that okay. I mean, that's the other problem, is that our society makes that appropriation okay.
Like I was just thinking about the Grammys that just happened, and I was like so shocked to hear that Nas just won his first Grammy. Nasir Jones. Okay. I'm like, how? So, and then you think back and like Eminem, white rapper, has 5 Grammys, and Nas had 0 up until this year. Macklemore, white Macklemore, also has a Grammy, while Nas had none. So I feel like it basically highlights what we're talking about. It's like, the Black, when white people do the things that Black people do, it is elevated, it's superior, it's celebrated, and it's really just unfair. It doesn't make any sense.
I was just talking to Aji about this too, because he did mention Eminem, and he said one thing that Eminem does, he does say, I know it's because I'm white. He acknowledges that he gets more play because he's a white rapper. So he was like, with him, it's a little different because it's not like he's trying to, he's just a person that loves hip hop music, grew up loving hip hop music, and that's what he does. But he does acknowledge it. He knows that his fame is because he's white. So
yeah. And I don't think Eminem is in the same category as Miley Cyrus, but I'm just speaking to the bigger systemic issue that goes on, and you'll see that time and time again.
Yes, and I
So-
agree. Go
So
ahead.
if she said why, then it would wash the whole thing. Like, why is Miley Cyrus different from Eminem? Why is Justin Bieber different? What makes the difference?
Well, I will say
Miley Cyrus didn't grow up in the hood the way Eminem did.
Yeah.
Right? So there's some authenticity to what Eminem is talking about and the things that he's
Okay.
seen and the way he's behaving and the people that he moves with. But these other people put this whole persona on fakely. Like Iggy Azalea is a huge example of this. You are a white Australian woman, okay? You come over here and you create a black scent. We know how Australians sound, okay? Now, now you have a black scent because where did you hear that growing up in Australia? You're just
TV.
putting on aspects of black culture to gain economically. It's like ridiculousness. So I think Eminem is a different situation, but some other people are really just blatant and ridiculous.
Yeah, and they
I would also like to add that Justin Bieber, like people who actually give the acknowledgement, like Eminem, they tend to get some of that backlash too. They tend to get some of that side effect that NECA was talking about, some of that negative connotation or consequence for supporting the Black community, or by giving that acknowledgement and saying that that's where their influence came from and they appreciate it. And because Justin Bieber, like recently, especially with like the whole Black Lives Matter movement and all of the like social injustice that we've been dealing with, he has came out publicly to talk about like white privilege and how people need to really open their eyes and really recognize how that Black people are being treated, how things are different, and he's received his own backlash from those things. And I think that may be the difference, is people who are okay with, I mean, they kind of been consistent about, acknowledging, making the acknowledgement and then getting the backlash from it. And then not going back and backtracking to try to save face.
Yeah, right.
So that makes me think of something. I was in Walmart the other day and I saw this woman. She had a product for, I guess she had adopted 2 African-American children, and this was a white woman, and she had designed a product line and a YouTube line that can be reflective of shampoos and different conditioners and things to allow kids that are in white families that have been adopted to kind of have a shampoo hair care line to kind of go along with the rest of their family. And so I thought that was really interesting because, we do have so many different products out there already. The fact that this woman saw this little niche of products available for, kids that are Black kids that are in white families, I really was thinking about that. Like, is that cultural appreciation because it is a niche and something that they need, or is it kind of taking away from the fact that we already have products that Black students or Black children can use? So I want to know what you guys kind of thought about that.
This is the problem I have. Why can't she just buy Black hair care products for her Black children? Why does she have to create her own separate product? Like, I mean, are you the expert in Black hair care? I don't think that you are. So why don't you buy from a Black company that knows about Black hair that's already existing, instead of creating your own based on probably learning from Black people how to do it and then selling it yourself? Like, how is that helpful? Who does that help? Like, if you say that you want all of your kids to be able to use the same product, I mean, that doesn't happen. Maybe this kid has straight hair, this kid has curly hair, this has drier hair, this kid has oilier hair. You have to buy different products based on your kid's hair type anyway. There's no huge gap and huge need that you have to create this thing that is made by a white woman for Black children. It's not necessary.
And
well, I think that's what she was kind of saying. Like, man, you got, and part of that is part of being Black and part of being a Black woman, right? We do try 1,000 different products. That's part of it, right? So her thing was kind of like, this is way too much. Like, if I could just create one line for, kids with straight hair that have more white Caucasian texture hair and that African American hair can use, that takes all of the guesswork out of trying these hundreds of thousands of products that Black women do all the time. So she's, and I can't speak for her, but I think she was kind of thinking of it like, this is an opportunity because this is a problem that we're trying all these different products.
And I was gonna say, because I talked to you about this before, it's like, where did she get the ideas from? You know what I'm saying? If she was struggling with it, I'm pretty sure she researched and she found probably, I'm gonna assume that she probably found a Black person or a Black YouTuber or a Black this to help her come up with ideas to create products that can suit Black hair. So of course, I don't think she's gonna acknowledge that. She's gonna profit off of these ideas that aren't her own, just like other people have for the financial gain. And I understand, I'm not gonna knock it. I understand it's for your child and you're trying to come up with a solution, but at the same time, I would just prefer the acknowledgement. Okay, this person probably, this person helped me to discover these products. I would just like that. She did it with the acknowledgement, and she did not just steal the product, or I don't want to assume she did that or not, but I would just like that acknowledgement. So I don't think she came up with knowing Black hair on her own.
She had
I don't
co-op,
think she just pulled it
everything.
out of the sky. It's like, oh, I got a solution. I know how to care for Black hair. I doubt it. So,
Expert.
yeah, I think a white person did not become an expert on Black hair.
It's all about her journey, how she learned to tie,
Yeah,
do Black
give me
hair.
more of that. Give me that. And I'll take it. I'm like, okay, if this is valid and you got it from a Black person, what YouTubers did you watch? You with this and that, then go ahead, give them some acknowledgement and say, hey, these people helped create my product. Just to give them acknowledgement, and not like, oh, I came up with this out of my own, I dreamed it in a dream or something, just give them the credit where credit is due. All right. So next question. So how are the cultural trends looked upon differently when one culture does it opposed to the other? So just for an example, when Black women are naturally endowed with a certain body type. However, if a white woman walks around with the same body type, how is this looked upon differently? That's just only one example, but you can go into a multitude, but it's up to you how you want to answer this. But I just gave you an example. All right, so whoever wants to take that one.
I mean, when we talk about surgical enhancements, oh Lord, it's sad that the Kardashians fit into like every question.
I know.
For
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Yeah,
but it's us getting those the surgeries and stuff. We getting those things too.
Yeah, but did it start because of them though?
But we are really perfecting it.
Yeah, we are. But I think
BBLs, the whole nine.
Yeah,
we getting that too now.
But like I'm also thinking about like lips. Like like having fuller lips, where I mean, that those were all things that were frowned upon too, Black people, I mean, there was a time where like Black Sambo had those large, red lips, and it was like, you were like a monkey, and it was soup coolers and all these negative connotations. And now, you got all these, European women walking around looking crazy with, these lips that we know are not natural. They, I mean, it's not attractive, but I mean, and then you see it everywhere. So it's like, it's okay. That's what people aspire to do. It's all over social media. It's all over TV on, I mean, so it's like, this is what you're supposed to look like. It's just sad because it don't look right. It's not even attractive. But I mean, people will sometimes go extreme, and end up on botched because you trying so hard. I mean, it's a mess. So they really got to take a look in the mirror and think twice about, wanting full lips like us now. But like I say, it was, it was a way to, break us down and, tear down our self-esteem and, make us feel less than. And now it's, people are making, I mean, their whole careers, plastic surgeons, and they're on TV, and that's the thing to do, is to get Botox and fillers to have fuller lips.
Hmm. And then also, like, I'm just thinking in particular about twerking, like when, when Black women do it, it's like, oh, it's disgusting, it's shameful, they shouldn't be doing that. But when the white girls do it, it's cute, it's, Miley Cyrus, Iggy Azalea, all these ladies can do it and it's not an issue. But when Black women are doing the same thing, it's problematic. So you definitely see how two groups of people can be doing the exact same thing, but the prejudice and bias and racism will cause people to interpret it differently.
You can even look at hair too, like the hairstyles. Like if we are wearing our hair a certain way, it's seen as unprofessional. But if they wear the same hairstyle, oh, that's cute. So it's a lot of disparity as far as like when they do it, it's cool. But when you do it, it's frowned upon. But
It's ghetto.
and secretly they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let me try it. And then when they try it, it has a different impact.
Right. Or even like the hair colors, the non-traditional hair colors, like putting purple or green or blue in your hair. It's the same situation there.
Mm-hmm. And that's been seen in the workplace too, where is really discriminatory. There was a woman who won, I believe this was in Baltimore, that a woman won about $250,000, I believe, lawsuit against Hooters, because there was this whole like dress code policy about not like wearing your natural hair color. And we know that Black women are not the only ones who color their hair, but that was the issue, is that they gave her an issue about her, blonde and brown hair. And she was able to prove that, that there were, she had white counterparts at work who colored their hair as well, but they were not, held to this policy of
Hooters?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this policy of like, your natural hair color. And she won.
Good for her.
She won. But on the other side of that coin is, even sometimes when, for a Black person to speak with proper English and correct grammar, it's like, oh, you talking white,
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, no, I'm not talking white. I'm speaking with good grammar. I mean, I'm
The white
speaking,
man's grammar.
right, exactly. So which is not appropriation, but again, as we're all saying today, is that society breeds a lot of these views, that the way things are looked upon as, favorable or ghetto, or, oh, you trying to be white, or, but it's not. But for some reason, there's so much negative negative connotations associated to Black people, almost no matter what we do. We can't speak correctly, we can't speak inappropriately, we can't, I mean, no matter what we do, it's like we can't seem to get it right. But white folks can do whatever.
Yeah,
and it's
but they'll
okay.
use our same slang though, trying to be cool. It's because there's so much anti-Blackness, right? Everybody hates Black people. But let's keep it real. Y'all know we are the keepers of cool. We are the trendsetters. Y'all want to be like us. And so that's where the conflict comes in, right? When we do it, it's horrible, it's ghetto, it's bad, it's hood, but you secretly want to do all of those same things, and oftentimes do.
You want to be us, but you want to act like us, but you don't want to be us. It's kind of like one of the, you want to be us, but you don't want to be us. You can be us when there is advantage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
See, yeah, I just always feel conflicted on these things. I always think about like this word of like professionalism, because we do in some cases in terms of like training our kids, right? So you train your kids a certain way about what they should do and how, the workforce place might be different for them versus other people. We do train our kids like that about how they should navigate the world that may be different than other people. And that's not necessarily fair, but that is something that we often do. So I always wonder, like, you know, are we perpetuating these anti-Blackness ideas onto our own selves as well by teaching people like, don't talk that way or else you're going to be perceived as you're being ghetto, or don't, you know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, sometimes we are. And I think sometimes we may be in our head more about, can we show up to this job interview with this hairstyle or with these braids? Sometimes we're in our head more than the actual issue that it would cause. But you know, it's very, I mean, who knows? It's very difficult to tell that. Like who can ever really know whether it's going to be an issue, whether it's going to make an impression or affect the person's impression of you. We don't know that. So some people will err on the side of being um I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, it's like we spend a lot of our
More
lives trying to navigate
conservative.
these social pitfalls.
Right.
You know, like all of these things that have been created and socially conditioned for us to, you know, we're trying to, you know, achieve, you know, acceptability for our white counterparts, you know, because most often when you go on the job interview, you're not going to be hired by a black person. We are already anticipating that we're going to be hired by a white person who's going to make that decision. And all white people are not bad, or are not, you know, probably don't care about our hair color, or don't care about, you know, some of those things. You know, or like, you know, they may not even, you know, conform to those things. But I think, again, I just keep thinking about, like, the more that we talk about this, and I know, you know, some of my thinking in preparing for today's, you know, conversation is just that society has really created all of this, and unfortunately we all have just kind of fallen in line. If you think outside of those lines, it's like you are, you know, a nonconformist, and you are oppositional, and white people who don't agree with those things are considered racist. I mean, it's like, you know, you cannot win, you know, when there's another, it's like white culture and white privilege that really dominates and kind of controls what is, you know, white. You know, white is right, and, you know, everything else is bad, basically.
It's a lie.
Right. I'm gonna throw in a kind of question as I was thinking, as the conversation was going on. I was thinking, we know that European beauty standards are the basic standards for beauty. Do you think this trend towards Black beauty standards is changing the way people see Black beauty? So I was thinking about, well, now Kim Kardashian, she's quote unquote ideal, but a lot of her features are Black features. So is this changing the beauty standard now? Are Black women and Black features are going to be seen as beautiful, whereas before, straight hair, slender nose, thin lips. So do you think this change could be like a positive in a sense of that other cultures are showing they want to be like us more?
No, because it's okay for them, but it's not okay for us.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, that's the issue with appropriation. They stole it all from us, but it's not okay for us to do those things. It's okay for them, but not, no. So nope.
Yeah, and I don't think Kim Kardashian has a lot of Black features. I think she has a surgically enhanced butt, and I don't know what else is supposed to be a Black feature on her. Do y'all know? I don't see none.
I would say probably lips,
Yeah,
maybe breasts.
Okay, maybe her lips, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I'm not getting Black really
Her
there.
hairstyles now.
Yeah, and I feel like if anything is moving, what's happening is what's becoming more acceptable is looking racially ambiguous or mixed. And you see that there has been a lot of stories recently about white women blackfishing to get clout and followers on social media, etc. And even when you look at some of the white celebrities like Ariana Grande, you know, has been trying, she's a white Italian girl who plays racially ambiguous, and I think she likes people to believe she may be mixed or Latina. But I don't think that people are necessarily praising or liking blackity black features, but maybe racially ambiguousness is
That's better.
something that is trending a little bit, but I wouldn't say that straight up black is the look.
Well, I think, you know, you do have some people like Lupita Nyong'o, who is absolutely fantabulous and beautiful. I think the other side of that is this tokenism idea, where it's like, you know, you can get one black person that is really, really black and really has all the black features. Not saying that she does, but you know, they will kind of throw in some color, you know, here and there, but it is really for the mix and the tokenism to say that they have, you know, representation across a variety of spectrums. They're never going to have two brown people. It's always going to be one brown person. They might have somebody else that looks a little light Hispanic in there. And then it's like, oh, good, we've got that box checked. And, you know, for me, is just very clear that that is what it has been done. You know, and that to me makes a difference. It's like, did you really go for diversity, or is it just you check the box?
But it's also interesting because, you know, it popped in my head. What was the woman name? Was it Rachel Salazar?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, child. Now, she is somebody who definitely purported to be a black woman, and they demolished her. And, you know, she is like, disappear. Okay. She was like, listen, I'm not here for this heat. And she got out the kitchen. So, I mean, it's interesting that that was her fate, and that is how America treated her. But that's not what we see. Like you say, that's not what happened to like Miley Cyrus. And that's not what's happening to, you know, all of these other, you know, people who, you know, take from our culture. I mean, Post Malone is a rapper who, you know, has definitely appropriated the culture, but still does not want to classify himself as a rapper. But it's like everything you do is like rap, is hip hop. Like, and this is what you're getting praised for. And it's in, just like you said, NECA, before, about like now Nas, you know, all these years later, he's like finally getting a Grammy. You know, it makes me wonder, and that whole thing with the Grammy, which I don't know. I'm almost like, was this year just like a year of like trying to set the record straight or something? Because I feel like everybody got Grammys.
Yeah,
and
it was.
a lot of it was
Blue
for,
Ivy.
yeah,
Right.
I'm like, now all these people got Grammys, you know, because she makes
I love her.
great music. I really love her
me
music.
too.
But she got a
Mhm.
Grammy for her song about civil injustice. Didn't the baby get not the baby, Lil Baby did he get nominated for that song, or did he win a Grammy? I'm not really sure, but I feel like you know, I was just thinking like all of these people are getting nominations, you know, during like civil unrest and bringing attention to. But it may be back to what Shanice was saying earlier. That could potentially be a good thing if this continues to be the trend going forward, versus, you know, it's just going on this year because, this is a time where it's like, you know, not only do we have protests and civil unrest, but it's during a pandemic where people don't have all of the distractions to look away and avoid facing the problem.
Right.
Now,
I think it's not genuine. I think it's just because of 2020 and everything went on. They're throwing some little pity awards, and then they'll be right back to white business as usual come 2022. It's the same thing as when, remember, they had Oscar So White, they had all that backlash, basically, yeah. So and then the next and then the next year they gave all the black people a bunch of awards, and then the next year it's right back to white.
Yeah, that's the trend.
Yeah, that's what happens every time. No, it's a show.
Yeah.
and it's funny. I mean, you talk about Rachel Dolezal. She was on, I think it was Tamara Hall, I'm not sure, but she almost had like, was in tears about how she was, you know, kind of kicked out of the Black community. She can't make any money for her kids, are hungry and barefoot, and they're just struggling so hard because she is an accomplished academic in some sort of Black cultural professor, whatever, and no institution has given her a job. So she's now a professional hair braider. So she shows up to the interview with her hair fully in braids. She shows up to the interview with her hair fully in braids, and it's just like, you just don't get it. You keep wearing those braids.
She not learning the lesson. Like, listen, this did not work for you, and here you are trying to take another avenue.
Well, I think that's a problem because of who Rachel Dolezal is, but I personally don't really take issue with white people wearing braids or locks or whatever. It's a hairstyle. Do whatever you want. I really don't care. It's just like before when, we're talking about they were trying to call the cornrows boxer braids and act like it was something new versus something that has been around in Black culture. Y'all didn't invent it. You stole it. Please stop madness. And like another thing that I see with that is, so I make waist beads, right? African waist beads, but there are some white people who have got onto that and now they're calling them belly beads or waist chains. And it's literal, you didn't invent it. It's not new. You're not giving credit where credit is due. These are African waist beads that have gone on for centuries and centuries and centuries. You didn't invent something new. You just renamed what you stole and are acting like it's brand new. So that's where the problem comes in, not just, being white walking down the street with braids in your hair. That's fine if that's what you want to do. I really could care less about what's going on and how you wear your hair. But trying to act like you created it, rename it, and act like it's yours is where I have the issue.
Yeah, just acknowledge it. Come on. All right. So we got about 5 more minutes, and this is going to be the last question that we're going to touch on for tonight. So, do you think that people that grew up around Black culture get a pass? So that means they can, do they get a pass? They get a pass that they can adapt to Black culture and call it their own because they grew up in it.
I think so. I think Neka touched on that earlier, when she talked about Eminem. I think that, definitely makes it more palatable. And maybe even changed it from appropriation to appreciation.
But also, I think it depends on what they're doing. Like, you can't be that you grew up in a Black neighborhood and then start calling yourself a Black man. No, you're still a white, like Dolezal, like that, There's a limit to it. It can't just be we accept it any and everything. But in certain circumstances, it's accepted. And sometimes when they are not showing appreciation for the culture, acknowledging their influence, it can still be problematic, even if that's where they grew up.
It also depends on where you live. I mean, you look at places like New York that are very, culturally diverse, but then you have certain communities that are, meshed together a lot more than others. And I know there are a lot of people like, you talk about the N-word. Some people that if you live with Black people, Spanish people, they use it too in New York because that's part of, how the culture of their, upbringing kind of happens. Whereas if you were in another place, that's not something that would be appropriate. So I think it kind of depends, really.
I don't think that's exclusive to New York, but
yeah,
Juno.
Because I think too, if you grew up in it, it becomes your culture too. Like, not saying that you, like you said, you shouldn't be calling yourself Black, but if you had the same experiences as someone, you went to the same school, you hung around the same people, it kind of becomes like your culture as well. Even though you may not be Black, you just grew up in that area, and you're caught. Say everybody else around you, your parents are in this, they all grew up in the same culture. You all have the same experiences. You all went to the same school. So I think for those cases, I give them a pass because they don't know any other lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? That's who they are. But if you take it and you steal it and you're not acknowledging that, I grew up in a Black neighborhood, all my, and you just go and roll with it and try to profit off of it. That's where I have the issue. All right.
I mean, I just think it's interesting that it doesn't work both ways because I think that, Black kids who grow up in white neighborhoods tend to have more problems throughout life. Educational problems.
Okay, not me, honey.
Yeah.
They said
But I mean,
they felt
like
white.
it can be culturally, like sometimes jarring, if you have you grown up around white people, your whole life and maybe went to private schools or, even if it were like the public schools, sometimes, black children can be, they just sometimes can be like viewed differently. Again, like, punished instead of being given services and things of that nature when you are in predominantly white neighborhoods. But again, that whole idea of how sometimes people are ridiculed for, talking white or, like you may be looked at like, oh, you think you too good or, you don't think, oh, what you not black, like you not black, you act white or, like sometimes it can be, not work the same way where it can, like you say, like we not profiting off of that. I mean, maybe there are some instances where we are, but those are little known. It's not the same as somebody like an Eminem, who grew up in a neighborhood and, like you say, became a rapper and got rich.
Hmm.
Well, that leads us to the final mark. Does anybody have any last words before we go?
Yeah, my final mark is just I think culture is just extremely personal. It's intertangled into a bunch of different things. And as much as we try to tie down what a certain culture means or what black means or what white means, it doesn't always come out pretty and in a nice cookie cutter way. So sometimes things, there it's not neat, is what I would just say about culture.
I guess my closing remarks on cultural appropriation is that as a Nigerian, I find it really irritating and annoying when people put on African attire for Halloween and you ask them what they are. It's like, I'm an African. No, don't put on people's culture as a costume. That is idiotic. And then number two, I really hate when people put white dots and stripes on their face to represent being African. You don't know what that means. There are some tribal markings that mean specific things to specific cultures, but putting white dots and stripes on your face doesn't mean that you look African or are African, and that's all.
And the moral of the story is ignorance is not bliss.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, ladies, another great discussion. All right, we're gonna get, of course, shout out the Black Advancement. Thank you for participating. And does anybody have any final shout outs? Not anything else to say before we go. Of course, shout out to NECA. You want to give your information for your waist beads?
Oh yes, okay. I designed waist beads. It came up in conversation, so y'all can find me on Instagram at Waist Watcher Beads. And that's all I got to say about that. Come purchase with me. Thank you.
All right, if that's it, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.